Imagine this, you're walking through your day, everything's smooth until suddenly something hits. Maybe it's someone's rude comment, a situation spinning out of control, or just one of those days where nothing seems to go right. Your first instinct, tension, frustration, maybe anger. That's human. But let me tell you something, training your mind to stay calm in those very moments is what sets you apart from the rest. See, we're conditioned to believe we need to fix everything happening around us. We want to control outcomes, people reactions, even timing. But the truth, the only thing you'll ever truly control is yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your internal environment. And when you understand that, when you really grasp it, you stop trying to change the storm and start focusing on becoming still within it. Now, don't confuse calmness with weakness. In fact, calmness is one of the highest forms of strength. Anyone can lash out, anyone can panic. But to hold steady when your world is shaking, that takes a different kind of power. That's mental training. That's discipline. And it doesn't come overnight. In the heat of moments, people give their power away. Someone says something disrespectful, they respond instantly, emotionally, defensively. A situation doesn't go their way, they lose control, make poor decisions, sabotage their own progress. Why? Because they let the situation dictate their response. But you're going to do something different. You're going to decide how to respond, not react based on clarity, not emotion. That's how you stay in control. That's how you win. Think about it. When you stay calm, you keep access to your mind. You're able to think, to calculate, to see the bigger picture. But when you react out of emotion, you surrender that clarity. You let fear, anger, or ego run the show. And emotions, they're loud, but they don't always tell the truth. They're temporary. They pass. But what they leave behind, your words, your actions, your decisions, those stay. So learn to pause. Learn to breathe. Learn to delay your response until you're grounded enough to respond with purpose, not impulse. Let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Life will test you over and over. You'll face unfair situations. People will misunderstand you, challenge you, disappoint you. And in those moments, your mind will try to convince you that you have to act now. You have to prove something. You have to react. Don't listen. Calmness isn't about pretending something doesn't matter. It's about proving that it doesn't control you. And here's something even more powerful. When you master your response, you become unpredictable. People can't shake you easily. They can't drag you into their chaos. And that unsettles them, because most people rely on getting a rise out of others to feel powerful. But when you're calm, when you remain still and focused, you take away their power. You hold yours. That's real control. Training your mind to stay calm isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's about choosing to rise above the noise, the nonsense the ego battles. Because when you learn to do that, you start moving differently. You don't just survive situations, you use them to sharpen your focus. Every difficult moment becomes a test that you pass with quiet strength. It starts with awareness. The next time something provokes you, don't immediately respond. Feel the emotion rise and let it rise, but don't let it run your next move. Observe it. Let it pass. Then speak, act, move with intention. Do that consistently and you'll notice a shift. You'll start to feel untouchable, not because things don't affect you, but because they no longer control you. And that's the goal. You want to walk through life knowing that no matter what comes your way, you've already decided you'll remain centered. You'll keep your peace. Because your energy is too valuable to waste on reactions that lead nowhere. Your mission, your work, your growth, that's where your energy belongs. So the next time life tries to pull you out of character, remember this, you don't need to control the situation, just master your response. Silence is one of the most underestimated forces in the world. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, where noise fills every corner of our lives, silence becomes rare, and because it is rare, it becomes powerful. But most people don't understand that. They think silence is passive, that it's weakness, that it's avoidance. But I will tell you, real silence, intentional silence, is a choice made by the strong. You see, when you train your mind to stay calm, silence becomes your natural weapon. It becomes the space where your thoughts settle, where clarity begins, and where power builds. People who are loud, impulsive, reactive, they give themselves away too quickly. You can read them. You can predict them. They're ruled by emotion, by ego, by the need to prove something to the world. But the one who is silent, truly silent, not just quiet, is unreadable. You can't figure out what they're thinking, what they're planning, how much they've already seen and understood. That's silence. That's where control lies. Let me tell you something. When chaos breaks out, when emotions are high and everyone is speaking out of turn, silence is what gives you the advantage. It's what lets you see the game clearly. You're not caught in the moment reacting with the crowd. You're observing, calculating, choosing when, how, and if you even need to respond. Most of the time, you'll realize that you don't. That alone will elevate you above the noise. You know what people forget? They forget that silence allows them to listen not just to others, but to themselves. It allows you to hear your own thoughts before the world contaminates them. In silence, you reconnect with your purpose, your principles, your vision. And when you're rooted in that, you stop getting thrown around by every little situation. You're calm but not passive. You're silent but not absent. You're there focused, grounded, and aware of everything. That kind of presence. It intimidates more than words ever could. People waste so much energy talking, defending themselves, justifying their actions, proving their worth, arguing for their limitations, explaining their side of the story to people who have already made up their minds. You think that moves you forward? It doesn't. It keeps you in the same cycle. The person who knows their value doesn't need to convince the world. The person with true direction doesn't need to explain every step. They just move in silence, let their actions do the talking, and let time prove them right. There's a time to speak. There's a time to make noise, to stand firm, to express what needs to be said. But that's not most of the time. Most of the time, you gain more by holding your peace, by listening instead of speaking, by responding later with precision instead of reacting now with emotion. It's in those quiet moments that you gain the sharpness others lose in all their noise. You gain control over your own mind. You preserve your energy. You protect your vision. Silence also keeps you unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you're powerful. No one knows what you'll do next. No one knows what you're thinking. They can't read you, can't manipulate you, can't pull you into games you're not playing. You operate from a different frequency, one that's not shaken by opinions, gossip, or emotional bait. People will try to provoke you just to see if they can break your stillness. And when they fail, they lose control. Because the moment someone realizes they can't shake you, they lose all power over you. You want peace? Practice silence. You want clarity? Practice silence. You want power, real power, the kind that doesn't fade when the crowd changes its mind? Learn to stay quiet when the world demands noise from you. Not because you're scared, not because you're hiding, but because you're building, because you're moving with intention, because you understand that silence is not the absence of action, it is the discipline behind every effective action. Remember this, every time you choose silence over reaction, every time you hold back when your ego wants to step forward, you're training your mind to rise above. You're teaching yourself that not every battle needs your sword. Some victories come from patience. Some wins come from watching others burn themselves out while you stay cool, collected, and ready. So the next time you're tempted to prove yourself, to explain yourself, to react just because it feels good in the moment, pause. Let the silence speak for you. Because silence is not weakness, it's control in its highest form. Most people live trapped inside their own emotions, reacting to life like leaves blowing in the wind. They get pulled in every direction by anger, fear, frustration, disappointment, and they think it's normal. They think being emotionally overwhelmed means they're being real. But I'll tell you something that changes everything. If you want to stay calm in any situation, you must learn to detach emotionally, not from life, not from your purpose, but from the emotional chaos that clouds your judgment. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become numb. It means you stop letting your emotions control the way you think, act, and decide. You start seeing things as they are, not as your feelings distort them. Because when you're too emotionally invested in every moment, your vision gets foggy. You make decisions that feel good temporarily but damage you long term. You speak too soon. You move too fast. You give energy to things that don't deserve your attention. Detachment is clarity. It's stepping outside your own emotions just enough to observe them without becoming them. It's being able to say, yes, I'm angry, but that anger doesn't get to lead me. Or, yes, I'm disappointed, but I'm not going to let it define my next move. That kind of control, it's rare, it's powerful, and it's what keeps you grounded when everything else is trying to shake you. Life will hit you. That's not a question. People will test you. Circumstances will push you. You'll lose things you thought you'd always have. You'll be misunderstood, overlooked, maybe even betrayed. And in those moments, emotion will rise up fast. That's natural. But here's what separates the strong from the average. The strong don't deny emotion. They just don't obey it blindly. They let it pass through, and they keep moving forward with focus and purpose. When you're emotionally attached to outcomes, you suffer. You get desperate for things to go your way. You obsess over what others think. You become anxious, restless, easily thrown off balance. But when you detach, not from the effort you put in, but from the outcome you can't control, you become free. You start playing the long game. You show up, do the work, stay disciplined, and let things unfold without being crushed by what doesn't go as planned. This is especially important when dealing with people. Someone disrespects you, it's easy to react, to get offended, to fire back. But when you're emotionally detached, you don't let their energy infect yours. You recognize that their behavior is a reflection of them, not you. You learn to observe without absorbing. That's real strength. That's emotional maturity. And when you carry that, you move differently. People feel it. They don't know why you're so calm, why you don't flinch, why their words or attitude don't shake you, but they feel the power in your stillness. And make no mistake, emotional detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. It allows you to engage with life from a position of control. It lets you protect your peace without building walls around your heart, because your peace, it's sacred, and it's your job to defend it from anything that threatens to steal it. When you detach from the emotional chaos of the world, you give yourself space to think clearly, to make better decisions, to stay focused on what truly matters. You'll notice the more emotionally detached you become, the less you need to explain yourself. You stop chasing validation, you stop overthinking, you stop getting pulled into conversations and situations that lead nowhere. You start moving in alignment with your values, not your feelings. That's how you become consistent, steady, reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. This mindset, it changes how you see failure too. Most people get emotionally wrecked when they fail. They take it personally. They quit too soon. But when you're emotionally detached, you see failure for what it is: information, feedback, a lesson, not a reflection of your worth, not a reason to give up, just a necessary part of the process. That's how you keep going when others fold. The goal is to become the kind of person who walks into pressure and doesn't get rattled, who hears criticism and doesn't crumble, who faces setbacks and stays calm. That's not about pretending to be okay. That's about building the kind of internal foundation that doesn't shake every time the outside world changes. Emotional detachment gives you that foundation. It gives you the space between what happens and how you respond. And in that space, you get to choose. That choice, that's your freedom. That's your power. So remember this: when you learn to detach emotionally, you don't lose your humanity, you gain your clarity. People want calm minds, steady hearts, and a sense of control over their lives, but they expect it to just happen, as if peace will arrive on its own, without effort, without discipline. But calmness doesn't show up because you wish for it. It's not a gift, it's a skill. And like any skill, it has to be built, trained, refined through daily practice. You don't rise to the occasion when pressure hits. You fall back on your level of preparation. And if your mind isn't trained, if your habits are loose, if you're constantly overstimulated and reactive, then calmness won't be there for you when you need it most. You have to build it ahead of time. You have to prepare for peace before the storm arrives. It starts small. It starts with you, alone, learning how to sit with yourself without distraction, not scrolling, not running from thought to thought, just being, just breathing. Those few quiet minutes you give yourself each day, they don't look like much on the surface, but that's where your strength is born. That's where your mind starts to stretch. That's where you develop the ability to observe your thoughts instead of being swept away by them. You can't expect your mind to stay calm under pressure if you never give it time to practice being calm. And yet, people go through life constantly on edge, overstimulated, jumping from one demand to the next, one crisis to another, and then wonder why they explode under stress, why they can't focus, why they're anxious. It's not a mystery. If you don't train for peace, chaos will train you by default. Discipline is what builds the foundation. A mind left undisciplined will always choose comfort over clarity. It will chase dopamine, chase distractions, chase validation. But a trained mind knows how to slow down. It knows how to stay present. It knows how to delay the impulse to react, so it can respond with wisdom instead. And that comes from daily repetition, not one-time motivation. You don't have to meditate for an hour every day. You don't have to follow some rigid formula, but you do need to start. You need to carve out space in your life where you intentionally slow things down. It could be 10 minutes of silence in the morning, a walk with no music, no noise, just nature and thought, journaling your thoughts so you can see what's really going on inside. These little things, they're not glamorous, but they are powerful. They're the building blocks of a calm, focused, unstoppable mind. It's also about awareness. You have to start paying attention to what feeds your mind and what drains it. What you consume, what you listen to, who you give your time and energy to. Those things shape your mental state. You can't expect inner peace if your environment is full of noise. You can't train your mind to be still if you're constantly throwing it into emotional chaos. Discipline means being intentional with what you allow into your space. It means protecting your peace like it's worth something, because it is. And it's not just about stillness, it's about how you live your day. Are you rushing through your morning already stressed before the day even begins? Or are you starting slow, grounded, deliberate? Are you reacting to every little thing that happens to you? Or are you moving with intention, responding when it's necessary, letting go when it's not? That's the difference between a reactive life and a trained mind. That's the difference between surviving and leading yourself. When you live with discipline, you build confidence in your own mind. You stop doubting your ability to stay calm because you've trained for it. You've seen yourself hold steady. You've faced stress without crumbling. You've sat with discomfort without running, and once you've done it once, you can do it again and again. That consistency is where real power comes from, and you'll notice over time that your reaction time slows down in the best way. You don't rush into arguments. You don't panic over change. You don't waste energy on what you can't control. Because your training kicks in, you start asking better questions, you start thinking before speaking, you start leading yourself even when things are uncertain. That's when you know your discipline is working. That's when you start to trust your own presence. Because when the world moves fast, when people around you are losing their grip, your training is what keeps you anchored. Your discipline becomes your protection. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to panic to prove you care. You just stay centered, stay steady, stay focused on what matters. And that only happens when calmness is no longer a hope but a habit, something you've built, earned, and strengthened through quiet, consistent effort. So start where you are, with what you have, and train your mind, not for comfort but for control. Because a calm mind is not found, it's built, one disciplined day at a time. Every day you're given a certain amount of energy. That energy is meant to be invested into your purpose, your work, your growth, your peace. But most people waste it before the day even gets started. They wake up and immediately hand their energy over to distractions, to people who don't value it, to thoughts that don't serve them. They let external noise dictate their internal state, and then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, unmotivated, and unable to focus when it really matters. The truth is, if you want to train your mind to stay calm in any situation, you must first learn how to protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. The strength of your mind, the clarity of your thoughts, the calm in your heart. All of it depends on how wisely you manage the energy within you. You cannot expect to be composed and focused if you're constantly drained by everything around you. Calmness doesn't thrive in chaos. It thrives in discipline, in awareness, in control. Now, understand this. It's not just the loud, obvious distractions that steal your energy. It's the subtle ones. The ones that slip in through a text message, a pointless argument, a mindless scroll through someone else's life. It's the energy you spend worrying about things you cannot control. It's the hours lost thinking about who said what, who didn't show up, who misunderstood you. These small leaks are what keep most people stuck in a reactive state, emotionally tired, mentally scattered, spiritually empty. When your energy is scattered, your mind is scattered, and when your mind is scattered, your calmness is gone. It becomes impossible to stay focused, to stay grounded, to stay in command of yourself. You begin reacting to everything. Every word stings, every delay frustrates, every challenge feels personal. But when you start protecting your energy, you create a boundary between yourself and the madness of the world. You no longer absorb every emotion that isn't yours. You no longer engage with every distraction that pulls at you. You become selective, intentional, calm. Protecting your energy means you stop attending every emotional invitation that shows up in front of you. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not everything requires your time. When someone brings negativity your way, you don't have to let it in. When a situation threatens to steal your peace, you can choose to observe it without losing yourself in it. This kind of mastery doesn't come overnight. It comes from daily practice, from catching yourself in moments of temptation and saying, "Not this time. My energy is too valuable." That's the turning point. When you realize that your peace is more important than being right, when you understand that your focus is more precious than proving your point, when you recognize that silence can be more powerful than responding, that is how you protect your energy, not just by avoiding what drains you, but by choosing what strengthens you, by choosing what feeds your mind, calms your spirit, and keeps you aligned with your purpose. People may call it selfish when you start choosing yourself, when you say no more often, when you stop explaining yourself. But let them talk. They don't know what it costs to build something real. They don't understand what it takes to carry responsibility, to walk with purpose, to move with discipline. You are not here to entertain noise. You are here to fulfill something much bigger. And you cannot do that if you're constantly at the mercy of other people's chaos. You must get to a place where your peace is non-negotiable, where you no longer allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions, where you no longer give situations more time than they deserve, where you no longer lose sleep over things you can't control. That's where calmness lives, in that space where you've learned to stay in control of your own atmosphere, no matter what's happening outside of you. Protecting your energy also means being honest with yourself. Sometimes it's not the world that's stealing your peace, it's your own patterns, the way you overthink, the way you seek validation, the way you keep returning to places and people you've outgrown. That kind of honesty hurts at first, but it sets you free, because once you see it, you can change it. You can reclaim your power. You can choose better. And with every better choice, you protect a little more of your energy. You build a little more of your peace. You move a little closer to that calm, centered presence that doesn't break under pressure. So when the noise comes, and it will, stand still. When chaos calls your name, don't answer. When someone tries to bait you into a reaction, let silence speak for you. That is power. That is growth. That is how you train your mind to stay calm in any situation, not by avoiding difficulty, but by refusing to give your energy to what doesn't deserve it, because your peace is your power, and you protect it by protecting your energy every single day. Most people are chasing calm in the wrong places. They think calmness will come after success, after they get what they want, after they prove their worth. But calmness doesn't arrive after the storm passes. It's what carries you through the storm. And if you wait for perfect conditions to feel peace, you'll spend your life waiting. You'll be ruled by circumstances instead of character. You have to build the calm within you first and let the rest align itself. To do that, you need to ground yourself in something deeper than the noise of the world. You need to anchor your mind in a greater purpose, something that doesn't shift with moods or opinions or outcomes. Because when your life is only driven by what's happening outside of you, your emotions will rise and fall like the tide. You'll be up one moment and down the next. But when you operate from within, when your thoughts are rooted in discipline, clarity, and conviction, then it doesn't matter how loud the outside world gets. You stay centered. Calmness is not the absence of activity. It's not about sitting still all day. It's about the quality of your inner state while the world moves around you. You can be in the middle of a high-pressure situation and still think clearly, still speak with intention, still respond with composure. That's the kind of calm that doesn't fade when things go wrong. That's the kind of calm that commands respect, not because it demands attention, but because it doesn't need attention. But here's the catch. It only works if you trust it. You must believe that calmness is not weakness, that stillness is not laziness, that restraint is not fear. Because the world has a way of convincing people that the louder you are, the stronger you are, that if you're not reacting, you don't care, that if you're not seen, you're not making an impact. But that's just noise. That's the mindset of the untrained. The real power moves quietly, it leads by example, it builds in silence, and it shows up when it matters most. The more you practice that kind of calm, the more your mind begins to trust you. It doesn't panic when things shift. It doesn't spiral when you face uncertainty, because it knows you're not led by fear, you're led by discipline. You don't need to prove yourself every moment. You don't need to control everything. You've built something stronger inside, a foundation that doesn't break under stress and doesn't beg for external validation. When things go wrong, most people tighten up, they speed up, they try to force outcomes, control every detail. But that's when they lose control entirely, because the moment you let fear lead, you abandon clarity. And when clarity is gone, calmness is gone. That's why slowing down in moments of pressure is a power move. It lets you think, it lets you see the full picture, it keeps you in control when everyone else is losing their grip. And that's the key, staying in control of yourself. Not the situation, not other people, not the outcome. Yourself, because that's the only thing you ever truly have control over. And that's more than enough. Because when you can master your own reactions, you can master any moment. That's how you lead. That's how you create impact, not through chaos, not through noise, but through unwavering presence. This kind of presence requires self-respect. You must respect your own growth enough to stop chasing things that shake your peace, to walk away from things that don't align, to say no, not out of fear, but out of strength. Not everything that calls your name is meant for you. Not every opportunity deserves your attention. The more you know who you are and what you stand for, the less tempted you are by the distractions that used to pull you off course. That clarity, it sharpens your calmness. It makes your silence louder. It gives weight to your words. You don't have to do more to prove more. You just become more grounded, more intentional, more powerful in how you move through the world. And that's when people notice, not because you're shouting, but because you're steady. In a world that's constantly spinning, constantly rushing, constantly reacting, the rarest thing you can be is still, calm, clear, in command of your own mind. That's what separates those who lead from those who follow. That's what separates the ones who are thrown off by every wave from the ones who become the storm. And that kind of inner strength, it's not built in a moment. It's built in the quiet hours, in the small decisions, in the moments when no one's watching and you choose growth over comfort. That's when your calmness is forged, not through ease, but through effort, through practice, through mastery of self. Because true calm isn't found, it's created, protected, and lived every single day by those who choose to lead themselves first,